Yoga teachers, mindfulness leaders, and energy workers, are you ready to stop side hustling and start making an income doing what you love? Welcome to the Marketing Off the Mat podcast. Each week, your host, Jessica Cross, dives into conversations with successful creatives in wellness, business, marketing, and more to uncover practical methods to take your business from A to B and have some fun along the way. Grab some tea and pull up a seat. Let's dive into this episode.
Welcome back to the show. It's Jessica, and this is Marketing Off the Mat. You are in for a treat today because we are talking about something super interesting and I think very, very pertinent as the pandemic has changed the way that we work. And we're talking about taking our yoga business on the road with the incredible Ali Temple. Ali is a global yoga teacher, retreat leader, and yoga teacher mentor. She has been traveling full-time for over 2 years, leading sold-out retreats and mentoring yoga teachers around the globe as they begin to build their own thriving remote businesses and cultivating the freedom a location independent lifestyle can provide. This is such a fun chat. I cannot wait to share it with you. So let's dive in. Hey, Ali, how are you?
Hi, Jessica. I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. It's such an honor and a pleasure to get to spend this time with you. And we're just so grateful for all the wisdom and knowledge that you're going to share. So thank you.
Oh, the feeling is mutual.
Okay, so we got to hear a little bit about you in the introduction, but I know that's just a tiny little bit of your story. So I'm hoping that you'd be willing to share a little bit more about yourself, share about your yoga journey and how I brought you to today.
Yeah, so I started practicing yoga about 20 years ago. I was actually a competitive figure skater in Canada. That's kind of one of the things you do there, some kind of ice sport. And from that, I started practicing because I had a back injury. And I ended up coaching the competitive sport for many years. And at some point in that process, I just got tired of the cold climate, of the politics of competitive sport, of that kind of cutthroat. And I was really leaning more towards my yoga practice. And that's when I first attended my first YTT. That was in Los Angeles almost 9 years ago. Since then, really, that was one of the big life-changing moments for me that pushed me towards where I am now. And just in a nutshell, from there, I ended up moving to LA on a 5-year work visa from Canada, which was just such an incredible experience. And I was supporting 3 top studios there as the lead teacher and the teacher development manager. And, in 2020, when everything shifted, when everything stopped, I had time on my own to reflect and to think about my bigger dreams and goals. And that's when I shifted to a full-time travel lifestyle. That's when I launched my remote business. And I've been traveling ever since.
Well, I think as the pandemic, I think, has played into so many of our big transitions in life and in business. And sounds like it was a very similar story for you too.
Definitely. I know that everyone can relate to that on some degree where if we weren't already considering what was working in our life and what wasn't working, we were certainly given the opportunity, I think most of us, to do that when everything shut down. So that's really what happened with me. I spent a lot of time in self-reflection and in meditation and clearing a lot of blocks, mindset blocks, and other things that I had holding me back and keeping me small. And ultimately, that's what made me feel ready enough to take that next step towards launching my own business and traveling.
So great. And then now you're actually living that life and you're really passionate about helping other teachers build successful businesses from anywhere in the world, which I think is so incredible and so important. So tell us a little bit about how do business owners even begin to structure their business in a way that could go remote? Because it seems kind of big and kind of scary. And I wonder if you can demystify that a little bit for us.
Absolutely. I think the hardest part is really getting started. For me, that's what it was, because we can get so in our heads about thinking that things are not possible and seeing someone else doing it, but thinking that could never be me, or I wish I could be doing that. But really, the first thing is checking in on your mindset and making sure you believe in yourself and what is possible. But when you start to look at really the nuts and bolts of beginning a remote business, whether you want to travel or just stay in one place, you really have to just start with the basics. For me, it's about keeping things simple. And I'm sure many of the things that you've talked about with your listeners already, thinking about what your strengths are, what problems you're passionate about solving, and who you want to serve, and then beginning to build a global community through starting an email list and showing up on social media and collaborating. Really, what I find is important here, and especially since I've been, well, not only going through it myself over the last few years, but coaching other teachers to get there as well, is you need to go all in. You need to be consistent and really be highly visible if you want to be in a remote business and have a business on your own. You can't just kind of dip your toe and halfway show up and see what happens. You really, as you know, have to work really hard to get the results and to reach your goals as a remote business owner.
I love that. I love how you mentioned, being visible and how important that is, and actually vital it is to starting any type of business, in person or brick and mortar, online, remote, however you look at it. And I think that can be one of the main or many main reasons teachers kind of get stuck in the really kind of how am I going to do this? I don't like being on social media. I don't want to show up on YouTube. All of these things are really hard and really scary. So what kind of mindset shifts do the teachers need in order to make this happen for themselves?
Yeah, it's such an important piece. And for anyone who's worked with me or has been in my memberships or mentorships, mindset is something we focus on a lot. It's something that I've struggled with a lot in the past as well. And I think it can be helpful to think back to when we started teaching yoga. Probably the same fears and the same setbacks are coming back up when we're putting ourselves out there in another way, because it's scary, it's uncomfortable, it's a very vulnerable situation to show up and put yourself out there on video, to show parts of you that you're not used to showing, especially for people like me. I don't know if you can relate, Jessica, but I'm a total introvert. I'm a total empath. So yeah, it's something that we need to work at. And when we talk about mindset shifts, first, like I mentioned already, believing in yourself and believing in what is possible is where you need to start. And something that we know comes up with yoga teachers so often is imposter syndrome. We want to be doing what someone else is doing, but we don't feel like we're ready. We don't feel like we're good enough. We need to let go of that. That was me. And really, like I mentioned in 2020, when I had that time to sit down and reflect and to release those blocks that were holding me back, that was a game changer. And other than letting go of not feeling ready or not feeling good enough, the other mindset shift that I see needs to happen is any blocks that are coming up around money and finances. Because as yoga teachers, this is something, of course, that comes up so often. Not only does it cost money to build a business, but you really need to be comfortable investing in support and programs and all of the things that you probably could be afraid to invest in. But when we break that down, our mindset is just telling us we're not good enough, we're not ready. it's not going to work. So there's that circle of self-doubt and money blocks where we tend to get stuck in often as yoga teachers. And that's something that I highly recommend you spend some time on if you are considering starting a remote business.
Absolutely. I think, and I say it often on this podcast, and I'm sure you've heard it or even said it in your circles, Allie, but running a business or starting a business brings up all of your stuff. It comes to money blocks and being visible or having the confidence that it takes to be at the helm of a business and, really putting yourself out there. And I think, just as you said, is like really getting clear on the things that come up for you when it comes to money, or come up for you when it comes to marketing your offerings and actually receiving money. Like there's so much work there. And I think I'm still doing, I'm sure you are too. It's a forever kind of thing.
Definitely. Yeah. I guess that's the bad news. That part doesn't go away. But one of the things that I love about yoga in itself is that you're always learning. And I think teaching yoga and practicing yoga is so intertwined with life in that way, because if we get to a point where we're not learning and we're not growing, we can just kind of feel stagnant and stuck. And that's not a place that I ever want to be. And I think that's why I've gotten to the place where I am now, where I'm traveling full time. I have reached a lot of personal goals in my life, but I feel like once I'm there for a while, it's time to keep going and to keep pushing the boundaries and outside of the comfort zone. So that's one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur and growing an online business or a remote business. It's that the challenge never goes away. It's a positive, right?
Yeah, I think so too. That's part of the challenge. How boring would it be if we had everything figured out?
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I wouldn't be doing it if it were easy. So I understand the challenge in getting started, but having the lifestyle of freedom and flexibility that running a remote business offers you is something that I am so grateful for. And it's totally worth diving deep into your own blocks and getting through that stuff, because it's not only going to help you with your remote business, but of course it's going to elevate your entire life too.
Yeah, that's so good. It's so generous. Thank you for sharing. So one of the things we talked about mindset shift, which I think is a major tool in our kit, just being able to have the awareness to understand, how we approach things, when we're coming to money or visibility, marketing, etc. When we kind of shift into the other tools and systems from running a remote business, I imagine that since you've been doing this full time remote for the past 2 years, you probably have a really good short list of some of the processes and tools that you like to use to really elevate your business, make things more streamlined, make the load a little bit easier to carry when, you're moving from place to place. And so I'd love it if you could share a couple of those little tips or a short list of things that you like to use in your business, from processes to tools.
For sure. So as I mentioned, I really do try to simplify as much as possible, especially because I am traveling full time. So not all of my clients are traveling full time, but they're running a remote business. And there are specific things that we need to keep in mind. And these are things that I teach in my membership, but it can be so overwhelming when you start learning, especially the tech stuff and all of the strategies that you need to learn. So a couple of the things that I like to do, I know I use Offering Tree. I don't know if you've heard of Offering Tree. It's really an all-in-one platform. And this is something I recommend because you can, if you're just starting out with your remote business, especially, you can kind of do everything in the one platform. So you don't have to go around and pick a bunch of different programs and platforms to get started on. So things like that, that's one of my recommendations. And really what else I like to look at are setting boundaries. This is something that I am so strong about. And I know that I saw you posted about it recently in your social too. And honestly, for me, I've learned this the hard way. When I started traveling 2 years ago, I first started out in Mexico, and I was beginning to build my business and beginning to travel both at the same time. And that was a lot. And that's one of the reasons why I love to mentor and coach yoga teachers who are looking to do those things, because I've learned kind of the hard way as to what worked and what didn't work. And I set out that first year. I had no support. I had no real business experience of running a business on my own. I had no boundaries. So I was living in these beautiful tropical places, sitting on my computer 10 or 12 hours a day, and just not really knowing where I should be spending my time and how much of it and how to do it. So not only setting boundaries to unplug and to make sure that self-care is still happening and to meet your needs, so that you feel good, but also investing in business support in whichever way is achievable for you, so that you have someone to help you out when things get messy and challenging, because it is hard. And especially when it's a remote business, we don't have that support necessarily of in a yoga studio. Like when I was working in LA, I had this incredible built-in community at the studios. And when you start to do things on your own, you gain a lot from that, but you are also losing the community piece. So that's the other thing. I would focus more so on setting up boundaries and staying connected to a community and receiving support when you are starting this remote business. That's what's really going to help you out the most. So those aren't really like specific tools, but those are definitely 3 of the most important tips that I can give you as you are starting out.
And they're so valuable. I love what you said too, that you kind of learn those the hard way. You came across, the tools that you're having to plug in and put some sticky tape so they made sense together, and then you found it all in one platform. And being in community, and also being with others who are in this quote unquote business that we're trying to build on our own. It's not something that everyone gets. And, being in community with other people, be it, one-to-one with coaching or in a, small group membership or however it is, find your people so you can really kind of support each other. It's so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was one that like I said, I learned that the hard way. I didn't have that support when I first started out, and that has been a game changer. And that's something that I'm really bringing up a lot with my clients, that you need to have that base support, because we can have family and friends as well. But if they're in a different field, which likely they are doing their own thing, it's hard to really relate, for them to relate to us and the challenges that we're going through as yoga teachers, as entrepreneurs, as remote business owners. If you can find a network or a coach that can understand what you're going through and specifically support you through that, I think that could be the game changer as far as not falling into burnout and not giving up along the way.
Yeah, that's so important, because we see so many people, so many teachers start out with these ideals of how it's going to go, and the path is hard and it can feel really lonely at times. And as you said, this could be the game changer, really. And the tools, those kind of come and go too. Those things change over the years. If you have the support from a community or a coach, you're golden. As you said, it's the game changer.
Yeah, it really makes the biggest difference. For me, it has, and I've seen it with clients as well. And I know it goes back to that mindset piece again. It's like we need to see that we're not really meant to do it on our own. And when you look at the really successful business owners and CEOs out there and look into their stories, you'll see that they didn't do it on their own either. So who are we to think that we have all the tools and all of the knowledge to just figure these things out on our own? Certainly, it's not anything I learned in any of my yoga teacher trainings. And I'm sure you probably, yeah. And that's, I'm sure, a part of the reason why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that it's so important for us to understand as yoga teachers and even as spiritual entrepreneurs, we need support to reach our goals. And it goes beyond any yoga teacher training. This is a completely different type of support that we should be seeking.
Yes. Yeah. I think our teacher trainings teach us how to teach. And that's what we need. Really, we need good, well-equipped teachers teaching safe classes, holding inclusive space. And that's really what our 200 hours and even some beyond are delivering. Yeah. But as you said, the business side it's completely different. And we can't really expect our 200 hour, 300 hours to meet all of the needs that they need to meet in addition to business, because it's so big.
Right. Yes.
So big. So we talked, a little bit about the tools, the community, and the support, and even some of the drawbacks in there too that you kind of uncovered as you have traversed this path. So I want to know, is there anything that, as you've gone along, has been really surprising to you as you've been building your business remotely?
Yeah, definitely the amount of time and energy that I am doing things not only on my computer, which is foreign to me, I have adjusted to, of course, but also offering free things. I think like offering my time for free, that was something that when I shifted from my roles in the studios to my own offerings, I was resistant to that. I was like, no, I've put in all this work. I have all this experience. I've done all these trainings. I'm worth more than free. And something that I've learned over the last couple of years is that this is just part of it. And we need to have strategies in place in order to build our communities and to grow our businesses. So you need to get comfortable with being strategic and offering things for free, offering your time for free, as long as it aligns with the bigger picture. This is definitely something that surprised me and that I needed to adjust to over time. And I think if I would have looked forward a couple of years and seen what my day-to-day is now, where I'm spending most of my time on my computer, creating content and collaborating with other amazing people like you, Jessica, and offering things to teachers for free. This is the same thing with a yoga business. You need to offer something to your potential clients so that they understand how you can help them and what it is that you're offering. And yeah, that was definitely an adjustment, probably one of the bigger ones for me. And just the other thing is physically, I've had challenges in my body that haven't come up in 20 years because I'm sitting so much. Yes. Right. And it's so kind of ironic that us as yoga teachers, now that I'm running a remote business, I'm quite frankly doing less yoga than I have been in a very long time because I'm putting in those hours at the computer, doing the things to grow. So like I said before, getting back to self-care and setting boundaries is so important because we know better. And if we're going to be teaching our students how to take care of themselves, then we need to be doing that. We need to be practicing what we preach. So that's something that has come around for me this past year as well, just reminding myself to take care of my body.
Whew. Yes, I can so relate to that. I think, your first point about giving things away when we worked so hard to,
Right.
we spend thousands of hours and dollars on our training, and not to, mention all of the hours it took to actually build the skill and the brand, and, making relationships with studios and students and all the things that we kind of don't see outside of that 60-minute class.
Yeah.
There's just so much. And then people like start to, where's your freebie? How do I get to work with you? I want to try things out first. And it really can feel a little jarring when you're like, oh, wait, this is a business. This isn't free.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
I love how you came around to that, because if it's strategic, it makes so much sense to build trust with our students in that way. So good.
Yeah, because as a remote business owner, we have to keep in mind that if you're not teaching at a studio, then you need to be able to build that trust, like you said, in one way or another. Because if we want to make this a thriving business and a comfortable living, it is possible, but there are things that you need to put into place and create in order to get there. It's not just posting your Zoom yoga classes on social media and then wondering why nobody's showing up.
Oh, yes.
If only, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I know. And gosh, how frustrating it is too when you try that. Because I think we probably all have at one point or another, like, oh, I'll just share the link and people will come, right? That's how it works.
Oh yeah.
And then you learn the hard way, as you've mentioned, and I know I have for sure, there's a lot more to it. There's just a little bit more than sharing the link to your Zoom yoga class.
Yes, definitely. So when I started out, that's where I was. That's what I was starting with. And for the first 6 months or so, I was really just kind of swimming in circles, not getting anywhere. And what changed it for me was I invested in a business coach, and it was scary and uncomfortable. But I needed that. And I had to let go of the fear of it not working out and really believe in myself enough to take that step. Because like I said before, we're just not built to know all of this business stuff as yoga teachers. We need that support.
So true. It's so true. Thank you. Those are such great points, and very relatable too. I know many of us have experienced or are currently experiencing exactly what you've shared. So thank you. It's really, really sweet and beautiful to share. Okay, so this is one of my favorite questions that I love to ask guests, and thank you for indulging me. So if you could go back at any point in the previous version of Allie, be it in your teacher trainings or teaching yoga earlier, or even in your business more recently, and tell yourself something that would save you a headache or a sleepless night or two, what would it be?
Well, the one thing that I would say to you, probably, I'm going to add a second, because what I just said, starting out my business and not investing in support, I think that would have been the one thing when it comes to building a remote business. But because I've already mentioned that, I want to also add that this goes back to when I first started teaching yoga almost 9 years ago. And this was a reoccurring theme for me. And I know I've seen it with so many other yoga teachers as well, that you just need to believe in yourself and stop playing small. This is something that since I've uncovered that, I've had so many opportunities to really live my dreams. And I wouldn't have gotten there if I hadn't gotten through those mindset blocks. So from the first point when I started teaching yoga and I was terrified to really be myself, and then having that reoccurring theme come up again and again when I started to teach in Los Angeles, and then when I started to create my own offerings online, there's that theme again. So if I could just go back and say, believe in yourself and just be your authentic self, that is the most important piece, I think, out of all of this. So if anyone listening is doubting themselves or trying to be like someone else, save yourself the trouble and you will thank yourself later. Trust me.
Yes. Oh, I can also kind of stand in those shoes myself and, trying to sound like a teacher that I admired or, not believing in my own gifts enough to, trust myself really.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful. And I'm going to stand with you and say it would save us so much time if we would have just listened and believed.
I know, but it's a journey. And I know that, as I'm 38 years old and I'm happier than I've ever been, I have less stuff than I ever had. And I'm living out of a suitcase for 2 years plus now. And really just uncovering what makes you happy is so important and something that I think we can get stuck in the day-to-day and not have the opportunity to stop and reflect and figure out, am I doing something that is fulfilling me and speaks to my purpose and I'm really excited about? And if you're not, maybe you start to just take those steps to work towards it. And trust me, it's more achievable than you think it is.
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if we're listening and we want to stay connected with you and we want to know all the cool things that you have coming up, what would those be and how can we hang out with you?
Yeah, you can definitely find me on Instagram. It's at Ali Temple Yoga. I'm there all the time. If you are curious about learning a little bit more about my story in how I started to travel full time and build a remote business, I do have a free 3-day video challenge. It's called Liberate Your Life. You can sign up for that now. You'll get instant access and you'll learn a lot more about my experience with travel and remote business. I have something very special coming up in March. So also, once you follow me on Instagram, just check out the link in my bio and you'll learn more about that and my memberships and other mentorship opportunities as well.
Perfect. Well, we'll include links to your Instagram, your website, and your 3-day video challenge as well. So people can have access to those directly. But yeah, go follow Ali, get into her links, check out all of her amazing content. And Ali, I'm just so grateful that we got to spend this time together and you're just incredible. And I'm so glad that you listened and explored this incredible business that you're creating because you're impacting so many people. And we got to have this chat today because of it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Jessica. It's been lots of fun.
Thank you, Ali. This was so much fun. And I'm so glad that we got to connect and talking about remote work. So if you're interested in hanging out a little bit more with Ali, you can find her on Instagram. It's at Ali Temple Yoga. She also has her free 3-day video training, Liberate Your Life, which we will put a link in the show notes here. And then find her as well on YouTube, Ali Temple Yoga as well. We're so glad that you got to hang out with us today. We're hoping that you will take a little bit of this knowledge and consider taking your business to remote. I hope that you enjoyed this chat and we will catch you on the next episode. Until then, keep showing up for your business.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Off the Mat podcast, and give yourself some gratitude for taking action in your wellness business journey. Please share this episode with someone you know who could use a fresh dose of inspiration. And we'd be thrilled if you would rate, review, and subscribe to Marketing Off the Mat on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Want to share an idea with Jessica? DM her at jessicacross.co on Instagram to continue the conversation or find out how she can help you take the next right step in your business. Until next time, stay inspired and keep showing up.